right, well, welcome to A Life of Creation. I'm Chad, the host. This is my neighbor and friend Ian.
Hi.
Um, he bought me a cigar and some good non-alcoholic beer for my birthday, so we're going to sit, enjoy them, and talk about creation because he is a creator himself. So welcome.
All right.
This
Thanks
is
for having
this is definitely going to be a different format, obviously.
me.
We're in my backyard. It's windy, slightly cold. Um, but hey, we're going for it.
Yes, sir.
Um, well, do you want to light your cigar first, open your beer first, or do you want to start talking about creation first?
Definitely light the cigar because I rarely have a cigar. So this is going to be a special treat.
Yes. I don't have them very often either, so also a special treat. Now, you probably actually smoke more cigars than me. So tell me, the cigar thing between us happened because you posted on Facebook, I believe, about lighting the cigars after an Alabama game, right?
Yes,
Tell me about that tradition. You said there was a tradition.
there
Was it
is a
too?
tradition. When we beat Tennessee, and I say win because most years we beat Tennessee. That did not happen this year, unfortunately. But that's okay. We got a new coach. But when we beat Tennessee, we always light up cigars after the game. All the players light up cigars after the game. All the coaches. Um, and honestly, I have no idea where that tradition started, but that's always been the thing when we play Tennessee. And whenever we play Tennessee, like after Auburn, which is our biggest rival, that's like Tennessee hate week. Like we just talk trash about Tennessee all week. We hate Tennessee. And yeah, when we win,
I have a lot of friends in Tennessee.
oh well, you guys are all great people and God loves you, but your football team is trash. Thank you.
But I mean, I went to Cal State Fullerton, which is a great school. But as far as like student pride and involvement in sports, there wasn't a ton. I think we had a good baseball team.
Okay.
So baseball was the Cal State Fullerton thing. I don't think I went to a single game though.
Why?
Didn't think about it. Because I live down the street and it was just I don't have to be here. I'm not gonna be here.
Right. Extracurricular activity. That is not it.
Exactly. Yeah, it just didn't really appeal to me at the time. Well, it's funny because I think I went back and shadowed a photographer who was the team photographer. So I went to like a couple games as a photographer, like just kind of learning how they did sports photography.
See, so it all comes full circle. If you have a reason to be there, I guess.
Yeah, and it was fun. And it actually made me sad that I didn't go to baseball games because another friend of mine went to that school and he went to a lot of baseball games and I think he still goes to the baseball games. I'm like, should have done
Have you gone since, like as an adult?
that.
Well, I guess you were an adult then, but a full grown adult.
Maybe one or two. Yeah, I don't think about it. I
Well,
just don't think about it. It's
okay.
it's sad. The only thing I think about like my college is I see it on the freeway when I drive past it. I get emails from them asking for money,
Of course.
and yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of fond memories there, so it's not like I didn't like it.
Right.
I just don't think about going there.
Especially for baseball.
Well, that's the only thing that I actually think about trying to go there for now is the baseball. Because I got back into baseball more recently, so now there's a draw that I want to
Right.
go. But um, so I kind of wrote down some talking points for you. Because because I didn't want us to just go off in random tangents about college.
Right? Which we would if there were no talking
Yeah.
points.
Um, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I do have a video. I don't know when I'm going to post this video, but I have a video that should be posting in January. So we're recording this in January, so it should come out soon. Probably before this video, but it's a video on motivation and inspiration.
Mm,
Um, and I was talking about the difference between the two, and my thought is you can motivation can inspire inspiration, and inspiration can inspire motivation.
hmm
But if you don't have motivation and only inspiration,
hmm
you won't get anywhere.
Yeah.
But
What you
if you're inspired, or
if you're motivated?
if you're motivated, inspiration could come. But if you are just inspired but you never have the motivation, you're not going to go anywhere.
What's your definition of motivation?
Um, I'd say getting up and doing, like, or maybe even doing to completion.
Mm, that's yeah, that's the hard part. To completion. I can do a bunch of stuff, but yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, it's like I've talked to a few people. I'm like, I get inspired a lot, but the motivation isn't always there, so I don't finish things. And
Mm,
I think that is the plight of most creators and creative people.
yeah.
You want to do stuff, but if you don't have the motivation. So I guess one of my questions would be to you, when you're not feeling motivated,
hmm
how do you find that motivational spark again?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just try not to force it and I just let it come. But there is something to be said about discipline and routine. And I think that, you know, this like Pavlov's dog or something, you can kind of train yourself to, hey, if I work, I do primarily music as my creative outlet. If I'm gonna do music every week, I'm gonna do music every week at this time. And if I do that consistently, if I don't do music at that time, I feel off.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel weird. Um, Also for me, like visualizing and I guess having like hope for the final product,
Mm-hmm.
that's what keeps me on task. That's what keeps me motivated. It's like, well, this music will never come out if you don't do XYZ, XYZ. You will never reach your full potential. And this idea that, I believe God's given me will never reach its full potential unless I do XYZ. So it's my job to do those things. I have to do them.
Right. Yeah, I mean that forces you. Um, Me and Charlie, who you've met, we were talking about this too, and we both can't mentioned Stephen King's book on writing,
hmm
where he just talks about his journey as a writer and how he became a writer, and he would basically lock himself in a room every day for hours and write, and you're just he's like wasn't always good, but if you want to be a writer, you have to write and you have to read. So I think he was saying he's reading like 90 books a year or something,
Goodness gracious.
and writing 8 hours a day or something. But but what Charlie and I were talking about was like when that inspiration hit,
hmm
he was tuned and ready to just he could run with it.
Hmm.
And that's why he's written so many books, because his muscles were built
Yeah.
and like very strong, and just built up, ready to go. So there is something about discipline in what you do. Like you were doing, I think for a while, you were doing every week,
The live
like
stream.
the live stream, right?
Yeah. And that's literally why I did it. I was at that time, it was COVID. Everyone had a live stream during COVID. I get it, but it was COVID and I just wasn't making any music. Another way I get motivation, and inspiration is by collaborating with other people because I find that sometimes I have a hard time holding myself accountable. So if I get other people involved, I'm not going to look like an idiot in front of those people. So
Right.
if I give my word to someone, and I'm learning, also to give when I give my word to myself that I'm going to do something to do it, but especially if I give my word to someone that I'm going to do something,
Right.
I make sure that I do it. So the live stream was kind of a way for me to do that virtually. Um, and just have fun.
Right.
Sometimes I would be on there working towards a specific goal. I think when I first started it, I did a beat tape called R&B Flips, and my goal was to use the live stream to promote it. But then it just kind of became a space where people can come and watch the creative process and know that they're not alone. When you sit there, I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You sit there and like you're making nothing but crap, for an hour or two, and then finally,
Story of my life.
right, you finally hit some gold, and it's great. And then there are some days where you don't really hit gold and you just learn something and you move on. But that was the Finding Grooves was the name of the live stream. That was my way of kind of doing that and building that discipline and holding myself
Right.
accountable, but also having my, for lack of a better term, my fans,
Right.
hold me accountable, because people would be like, if I didn't do it, it became, yo, aren't you
Well,
going to
yeah.
do the thing?
Like, hey, I tuned in, where are you?
Where are you, man? So,
Yeah, I did something similar. I didn't do a live stream, but um when I was furloughed from work, um I told Jess, my wife, that I'm going to still pretend I'm going to work.
mm,
So I would every day of the week I tried to do something different. I would like Mondays, I think I was like music. I'm gonna just work on some music stuff. And it was like, I wasn't in there for 8 hours a day,
right,
but it was intentional to just one, try and keep a routine of dad isn't here all the time.
right.
This isn't a normal thing. But just keep myself just like, I'm so used to going to work every day. I need to keep doing something. And then once I got back to work, because I think I was only furloughed a couple months because business never slowed down for us. But um, I started doing, I think on like Monday or Wednesdays, I did a whiskey acoustic. So I would pour a glass of whiskey, pick up my acoustic guitar, and just record whatever I came up with. And it was like a weekly. I was trying to make it a weekly habit. And then I had the worship leader at church at the time. He came over a couple times, and we would just record something, have a drink, and it was such a fun thing. My brother came over one time. Like I didn't do anything with those recordings, but like I can kind of go back and find it and go, that was fun.
Right.
You know, doesn't matter.
That's facts. And I think that's something like as creatives, I forget sometimes, especially being so goal oriented. Like the original reason I started doing this was to have fun,
Right.
you know? So I think that's great.
Yeah. And I think as creators, it is important to take a step back and go, why did I get into this in the first place?
Hmm.
And even like my photo journey, I always think back on it and go, it was music. I started photography to shoot concerts. And so music was always the center of it. And so now whenever I think about that, I always kind of go, music is important to me.
Yeah.
And so I try and make it my escape from my normal, you
Right.
know, because having a creative 9 to 5 can be draining.
hmm
Um, so it's good to have that other outlet that refills your joy, your joy bucket.
Certainly.
Um, so when you have that like moment of inspiration,
hmm
what is your kind of like your process of trying to bring it to fruition to complete it?
Um,
I that's a struggle for me.
it's a struggle for me too, to complete things. Um, my process is ever changing because I'm always trying to tweak it in order to like actually complete things. But
Right,
I mean a lot of times it's just like I have the initial seed of it,
right,
whatever it is. Maybe it's some chords. Maybe, I'm really into gear, as you know.
yes,
It might just be a patch on one of my synths or a drum pattern. And then I kind of, for to not hopefully not sound corny, but I kind of try to ask God and ask the music like what does it want?
yeah,
Because I feel like I have a seed, but then it wants to go somewhere. And sometimes I do have like a really solid idea, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this with the drums, and then I'm gonna do these chords, and then everything else I'll put together after. But then sometimes it's like I just have a tiny, tiny seed, and I have to really give in to the music and ask it like, what is it trying to
right.
be?
Where do
Um,
you want to go?
where do you want to go?
Because I don't know.
Because I don't know. And a lot of times that ends up being my favorites, like the what I think is the best stuff. But there is a part of my ego sometimes that's like, I wish I just had that a whole idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But I guess it's so I can't take credit for it. Is really is all God.
right.
But yeah, I think that's kind of like my process. Is like I'll start with a small part and then figure out, well, what does it need? And a lot of times it's slop. A lot of times it's crap. A lot of times it's not anything. And I'll listen to it and listen to it, and then I'll get tired of it. And I might come back to it a year later and know exactly what it's supposed to be now. You know? Um,
I think I've had those nuggets where you walk away from it just frustrated, and then you pick it up, or you pick up the guitar randomly and play it later, months later, even years later, and then go, hey, I think I have an idea for this now.
right.
Um, one of my old bands called Crosscheck, I I remember playing like a song the first time I got the bass player and drummer together. I just played this one song on acoustic guitar, and they both just like looked at me and they're like, "It's kind of dumb." I was like, "Uh, well, that's all I got right now, or I have this or whatever." And we didn't do anything with it. We later went to record a second album, and I played that song again for the bass player, and we had a new drummer at the time, and it turned out to be like our favorite song on that new record because it just needed to sit in that barrel for a little bit.
hmm
Get that nice aged
Right.
wood,
Like some whiskey.
Yeah. And it was yeah, it just it wasn't the time for it. And I think that there's something cool as a creator to just always have even a stockpile of a chord progression,
hmm
um, a lyric or something that you can kind of pull from later. Like I try and I'm not as good as I want, but have like a journal always with me of some sort so I can jot something down. I mean, you've helped on a couple of my songs, and some of those took a long time.
Yeah.
I think that one song that we did vocals on, I think I've been working on it thing over a year at this point. Just
Yeah.
one song,
Yeah.
just because it hasn't, all the right things haven't happened. We're getting there, but it's just the way it goes.
Well, let me ask you this with that being said, how do you for yourself in your creative process, not only in music, but even, and maybe it's different in photography. I don't know. I don't know a lot about photography, but how do you know something is done? How do you know all the right parts are there?
Um, well, I'll start with photography. So, as a concert photographer, I knew I had an image when I felt the energy of the band.
Mm,
So if I could look at that picture and feel like I was at that show,
mm-hmm,
I'm like, that's a good photo.
mm-hmm.
I mean, would shoot thousands of photos sometimes, and you get a handful.
Right,
Um, and even in that handful, maybe two that were like, that's the shot.
right.
Um, Music,
Dang.
as a retail photographer now, we shoot so much content, so you almost can't even be super picky.
Right.
You kind of have to be like, that works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me in that space now, I usually try and go, I like the lighting. And
That's the metric.
yeah. If I feel good about the lighting, I'm usually okay, this is gonna be a good shoot. And then sometimes the model, brings their energy
Mm-hmm.
and creates and like just brings their own creation aspect into it. And it's like we've walked away from shoots where you're just like, that felt good.
Right.
Um, like the stylist killed it, the hair and makeup artist killed it, the models were good, the lighting was good, so many things clicked. So I think you can feel that. And what's funny is like I feel like most of the time when we feel that, the bosses are like, that was okay.
Right.
And you're just like, oh, but it felt so good. But it's just because, as creative people, we just see things differently.
Yeah.
Whereas if a business person looks at it, they're like, well, I don't see the product for great. And you're like, well, are we trying to sell the lifestyle or are we just selling a t-shirt? So
Mm.
it's a struggle. Um,
Mm.
but it's one that, I've accepted and I'm okay with it and I understand it now more. Back in the day when I first started, it's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Right. You guys don't get it, man.
You guys hired me to make cool imagery and you don't like it. So it was a very long, steep learning curve. Um, but now you kind of can approach it now like there is a happy medium
Yeah.
or happy balance, and it is attainable. And I've said it before where it's like, not every shoe is going to be great, but we're going to shoot another one in 2 days. So you just kind of, okay, we'll do better next time. Uh, but our job is to create inspiring images that make people want the product. So that's kind of what I try and do at this point, and just have fun with it. Um, it's very easy to let my job become a job, and it
Yeah.
and it does very often become a job. But ultimately, it's like I'm so blessed to do what I do,
Amen.
and I support my family with it, and I love who I work with, and I'm like, I my wife always jokes that I go to vacation every day for work because they feed us.
Right.
It's like I shoot pictures most, and I mean, for Halloween we do like a big haunted maze for the whole office, and it's just like we have so much fun at work. Um, so it is a blessing, but I think creatively, I've done it so much now. It's almost like I can have a journal for work. There's times where I can just write out, draw something, and go, I want this light to be this color, this light, this color, all on paper,
Hmm.
and then set it up, and it looks how I envisioned.
How do you get there? Just practice?
Yeah,
Just
years,
doing it.
just doing it. Like what we had said earlier, it's like if you constantly work and push yourself, even despite not having inspiration, but you're motivated to just kind of keep going, your muscles start learning these things,
Yeah.
and like your eye and your
Hmm.
just your gut feeling really.
Yeah.
um and I think that's what's hard as a creator to impart onto other people,
Yeah.
because it's like I think one of my teachers in college was even like, you can't really train an eye.
Yeah.
You can exercise it though,
Hmm.
and eventually you could get there, but it's your your eye is so unique to yourself. So some people shoot their entire lives and go nowhere because it's other people don't really care
Yeah.
what their eye sees. I don't know. It's strange because it's like we could, like, I've shot concerts with other people shooting basically the same image, but
Hmm.
it looks can look totally different, and it's just the eye, and it's just the framing, it's the angle, it's you just happen to catch a better moment. It's crazy. Um, so I don't know. It's a hard one, and I've been at my job for 18 years,
Wow.
and I did probably photography for 10 years before that.
Right.
So I have a lot of experience. So I think when I was younger, especially, shooting small bands and poorly lit clubs, you just kind of learn how to work with what you're given.
Hmm.
And I think that's can apply to music as well. You have one idea, and you kind of go, all right, this is one idea. I have this other one that can kind of, blend in a little bit, and then before you know, you're like, I have a song,
Right.
you know. So I don't know. It's musically my I usually just play the same things over and over until something like clicks, I guess. Because not proficient in any instrument, so it's
I disagree, but
well, I mean, not a virtuoso, or
right.
I can play some chords,
Right.
but so for me, it's still kind of it's a harder process.
Right.
But I mean, I've been playing bass or guitar since freshman year of high school. So it's not like I don't have experience. I just spent most of it playing punk.
Right.
So I only needed four chords.
Right.
Just needed to play them fast
With a lot of energy.
with a lot of energy. And that's something I loved doing. It was playing live shows for punk bands was one of my favorite things. There's just something about it that's just so fulfilling.
Well, then I guess my question to you is, okay, we understand when a photo is finished. When is a song finished? How do you
Um,
know?
I think sometimes when my talent stops.
Mm.
If I hit,
Hmm.
I physically can't play better, or I don't know enough theory to take it in a totally different direction.
Hmm.
Like my dad was a music teacher,
Hmm.
studied music, and I'll share some of the compositions I've done. He's like, "Oh, you should do like a key change or something, or you know, mess with the tempo." And I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And there would be times where I like try changing something. I'm like this. He's like, no, you just went up like two notes. That's not changing a key.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But that's something I'm working on. But I think so. Like for the songs that you've helped me with,
Hmm.
is um yeah, like I don't know what else to do to it at that point.
And that's how you know.
Yeah,
All right.
I just need to walk away.
Yeah.
I think it's done. I need to walk away. Um, I think that's definitely one of the my metrics, I guess.
So is that the moment you release,
Yeah, well, I
or do
do
you
tr
take a break?
I I do try and take a break. So I usually I will download it to my phone, whatever mix I did,
Hmm.
make a playlist, and just repeat that song over and over and over in the car. And then I sometimes it inspires me. I'm like, ooh, I should try this. Or sometimes it's like, that's not bad. It's okay. And then I'll send it to someone to maybe mix. Because then they hear something totally different sometimes and make it better.
Right. That's when collaboration can come in.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that.
Um, yeah. Like the song last song we were working on.
Hmm.
Like I had uh like Will do that vocals over and over and over, even when he was in New York.
Right. I remember.
And it took him coming here and us being in the same room to kind of walk through it because I had a vision for it, and it took me actually being with him. And even then, I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Like he did an amazing job, and it sounds great. But I think that song. I mean, I haven't really played it for anyone yet, but I think that song has become to mean a lot more to me
Hmm.
now because of just the climate that we're in. So now it's like I need that song to sound good because it's personal at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also like there's a part of me too. It's like I did this very produced version with
I remember that version. Yeah.
symphony and all this
Hmm.
stuff. It's almost to the point where I'm like, I might just have to play guitar and try my vocals over it because it's become a personal song.
And sometimes you have to sit with it and go through all of that to get back there and realize that's what you really want,
Right.
you know?
I wish I had a singing voice. That's what I want. But it's, I mean, it's turning into kind of an emotional song for me. So I'm like, it may just almost have to be, I'll play acoustic guitar, but it may just have to be almost punk vocals over it
Yeah.
because that's all basically only the way I can vocalize my songs. So that might have to be it. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think too, like as an artist and as a creative, sometimes I know I go through this like overproducing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like in photography you can over edit and do things like you just cook the whole thing. You took all the soul out of it. And I think sometimes you have to go all the way to the super symphonic crazy version to realize I need to tamp it back down and to lean into and accept some of the rawness
Right.
because like I know for myself at least like I compare my music to other people because I have inspirations,
Right.
which we shouldn't be comparing. That's what they say, comparison's the thief of joy or whatever. But like, you know sometimes you kind of need to, but then like you said, it's like you get to a place where yeah, actually that's what it needs, but you have to take it to these other places to realize
Right.
I was actually right the whole time. You know, it may not be the most produced thing, it might not sound the prettiest, but it's going to be the most authentic. And I had a singer, I can't remember my man's name. His first name's Harry. He's a famous singer from the 60s and 70s, but I met this guy at this jam at a place called Harvell's in Santa Monica. They have a jam every Monday that my buddy CC puts on. He's on my record.
Okay.
He's a bass player, fantastic bass player. But um, he
So
told
are you.
me,
So are you.
huh?
So are you.
Right. Oh, thank you. But he told me he was such a good singer when they were covering songs, just having fun, and I was asking him like, 'cause I just started singing lessons. I don't know if I told you, but I just started vocal
Oh
lessons.
wow.
Um, and he was like, you can sing as perfect as you want, but the most important thing is that people feel you.
Right.
Because he's like, I've gone and seen some of the most technical, beautiful singers, but I couldn't hear what they were saying, in their heart.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes something I know for myself as a creative, I have to remember like,
They can see through the lies.
yeah, they can see through the lies, man. Just be you, be yourself, express yourself. That's why we do this. Express
Right.
yourself. And it might not be the most polished thing in the world, but it's going to be the most real. And that's what people connect to,
Right.
you know? And
Yeah.
that goes back to even the photography, capturing the essence and the energy of that moment in the show.
Yep.
It's there are metrics, but there's always going to be that little piece of it that's intangible
Yeah.
that you just have to, when you know,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think if you keep going and keep like pursuing your dreams or your talent or your creation, um, that intuition grows.
Yeah,
And I think you know it sooner.
yeah,
Like I can go through I don't shoot a lot of concerts anymore, but when I do shoot a concert, I can go through photos really fast now because I used to have to edit the night I shot it so it would be online the next day. So you learn to be fast
yeah.
because you're like, I want to go to bed. I can't get up and go to work.
Right.
So
I got stuff to do.
there's a lot of motivation for sleep. So um but because you're doing it so often, that muscle, it's like Stephen King's writing muscle.
Exactly.
It just kicks in sometimes where you're just like there's times where you just get in that zone
Hmm.
and you're like, oh wow, that went fast. And that was actually fun.
Right.
You know?
This time it was fun.
Yeah, it's not usually fun, but
Right.
it's cool.